Howdy, howdy, Sudevil here, and today we're going to use math to figure out which is the best melee damage dealer in Solasta at levels 5, 10, 12, and 16. To save those who don't like going through tedious spreadsheet work and looking at formulas and figuring out why, I'll just cut to the chase, and then if you want to stay for the calculations, how I set it up, and the reasoning behind it, you can do so at level 5. If you only go to level 5, the half orc barbarian berserker is the best damage dealer at that level. Level 10, it is the half orc judgment paladin. At level 12, it is the half orc champion fighter, and level 16, it is also the half orc champion fighter, which is a number 1 melee damage dealer in Solasta. All right. For those of you that want to stick around and go over sort of how I came up with these calculations and what my reasoning is, you can stay here for the rest. And if you do like these kinds of videos that are going to go in a little deeper, do some calculations, some mathematics to figure some things out, like, subscribe, and comment. I really appreciate it and find it motivating. So go ahead and do that now, and we will get into the analysis. So I guess I went over the just to go over the classes that I analyzed, because you can't pick every class, subclass, race combination to do an analysis. You sort of got to pick and choose which you think are going to be the best, and then test them against what you think. I have added to this. I've probably rebuilt this spreadsheet about 3 or 4 times now, and added to it as I went along, and I've added different things in different places just so that I know what's going on, but I'll explain to you what I've done. Now, I did an analysis at level 3 just to get all the basics down and go and review how things were working so I could double check my math by hand, because it's just small enough to do it at that. Then I went and did level 5 as we leveled up and got stats, level 10, 12, 16, and then really level 16, assuming we get a strength item like the belt of a giant strength belt, because that is quite likely. It's very easy to do in the higher levels, and it does make a difference. And it is one thing that's not available exactly to dex base or finesse weapon characters, but you can switch over with the ranger if you take ambidextrous, and which we did for level 16 analysis to include that. I'll go over each of the things that I've included. Now, some of these things that are in here are for my own information. They're not really relevant to the analysis, but I just like to see things, and I was curious about a few things as I went through. So basically the combinations I looked at were the half-orc champion fighter, and I wanted to compare that to the halfling champion fighter to see what the racial abilities of lucky, meaning you re-roll a 1 if you hit it, which can re-roll to a crit, it can re-roll to a hit, versus just the ability to add another damage dice when you crit. They do start with different stat points, like the champion fighter will have +3 to their strength, where the halfling will only have +2. It takes a while for the halfling to kind of catch up. I looked at the half-orc barbarian berserker and the halfling again, barbarian berserker. I really wanted to have a thorough look at the difference between these racials so that I can understand, do they pass each other? Are they always the same? What's more important, and what do they look like? I also looked at the dragonborn barbarian claw subclass. It gets a very nice ability at level 10, I think, where you can add a d8 to all your damage, and it does have a breath weapon with the dragonborn, and you get another breath weapon with the claw. I was just curious as to what that would look like. And then I wanted to look at the rangers, particularly the Swiftblade. There are other ranger classes that can do quite a bit of damage, like the marksman, the hunter. The Swiftblade really outpaces them when it comes to melee, and it has a wonderful ability where you can focus your damage for up to your proficiency bonus rounds and get 2d8 per hit. It's just a very powerful ability. So that's the only ranger class that I looked at. Then of course I looked at paladin, because paladin is very strong, and I looked at judgment. In that I looked at the half orc paladin. I also looked at a half elf paladin. Does that extra stat point? Can you catch up? Does that help? Is it worth it? What does it look like? And for my own information, because I want to look at, my thoughts were a paladin would be best as a tank, not a damage dealer. And so I wanted to look at doing a hill dwarf paladin with a one-hander. And I wanted to see how close is its damage to the other classes. Can it keep up with them? Is it even better than them in some cases? So the way I did my damage is I wanted to look at a sustained damage, both melee and ranged, for each character, each class. And I assumed the sustained damage is just sort of the damage out of the box, no smites, no spells with the exception of the ranger, because you do get some abilities out of the box like favorite enemy, and you do get hunter's mark. It's just hard to not include that because it's part of the class, and it's functionally inexhaustible. Then what I did was I assumed if we have sustained damage, whether it's ranged or melee, I just did, okay, if 25% of that damage is ranged and 75% is melee, that would be about what I would think the sustained damage is. I looked at 50% and 75%, but really this is the number that I wanted to look at for each combination, to say, okay, this is the sustained damage that I'm going to get. But of course, when it comes to doing damage, there are other things that are very important when you want to do damage, and I think these columns cover those things. So this column is, what is your 1 round burst? What is the maximum a buffed up character could do in the first round of combat? I do have the ranged here, but I'm not looking at that. I'm only looking at the melee damage in this case. I just have it there for my information. The next thing is, what can you do as far as, I would say, Nova damage, which is the burst damage over 5 rounds. Some call it Nova, which is really, that's where the paladin tends to shine. And then what can you do for a sustained 10-round fight with all of your abilities being used and being buffed up as much as you can be for the level? You know, how much total damage can you do at that level? So I've done that for level 3, 5, 10, 12, 16, and 16 with those strengths. The only ones I am actually analyzing as far as using a calculation to figure out what is the best damage dealer is level 5, level 10, level 12, and level 16 with that strength item, because that's where most campaigns am. And there are a few like little ones that you can get that are level 5, but really level 10, 12, and 16 are the big ones. So I'll just continue on with what I've added into my analysis. So I also wanted to just understand what are the what fighting abilities would you take? And GW is a great weapon. So most of these characters are using a great sword, which is 2d6, which is just better than a battle axe, which is 1d12. You can also do this calculation with a maul, which is 2d6. But this is great weapon fighting, which allows you to re-roll 1s and 2s. The halfling and Sylvan Elf Ranger are using 2-weapon fighting, so they're gonna dual wield. And then with the Paladin, the Judgment Paladin, is just taking defense. And then I guess the fighter gets another one at level 9, which we'll get to. But there's a feat you're going to take at 4. Fighters get another one at 6. The feat and ASIs, everyone gets at 8, 12, 14, 16. And then I've just got the level in here, base hit points per level. I want to see kind of what with this class, what do the hit points look like at each level, and what AC might I expect them to have? It's not required for the analysis. I just like looking at it. I also have movement, just for interest sake. One of the things that is that's basically impossible to analyze is what is the value of movement of the Sylvan Elf being able to move 9 tiles, and as opposed to a halfling fighter only being able to move 5. We know the value is not nothing, and particularly it allows you to place damage on higher value targets, but I can't really make an estimation to analyze that. So I've done something to try and put that in. The ranger is a bit trickier to analyze as it is. But anyways, I'll talk about that when I get to it. Then I have their strength modifier at level 3, the dex modifier, and I expected them to have con, in wisdom, and charisma. Again, lots of these don't matter. I'm just curious. And then the type of weapon they're using. So that greatsword is going to do a 2d6. If they start off with a light crossbow, that's 1d8. And down here, a short sword is going to do 1d6. And I'm going to assume the paladin is going to start off with a short sword as well. Basically have the raw weapon damage for the weapon they're using, and then sort of a modified weapon damage, which is going to include things like your strength modifier, your rage modifiers, stuff like that. Now this is where I have a bunch of different modifiers that do different things along the way. I will note that because the ranger gets favorite enemy, which can give some extra damage, and with 2 weapons you can actually poison both weapons, so you can get in an extra 3 attacks with poison, and you have a little extra movement. I tried to put this all in one number by saying essentially your favorite enemy can give you from 1 to 4. At level 3 I have it assuming that it's going to give you a 1, and a Hunter's Mark is going to give you 3.5. So 3.5 plus 1. Then I'm saying, okay, you've got Hunter's Mark or Hunter's Mark and favorite enemy, 50% of your hits. It's not a great modifier, but it's sort of the best I could think of to do. In the end, I don't think it... I think it's going to be good enough for our analysis purposes. Then I have weapon damage, so that's when weapons do extra d8s or d6 of damage. We'll get to that later. Divine Favor. I'm going to make an assumption that for all of these attacks, when you're doing the sort of 1 round, 5 round, and 10 round, but not the sustained, that the Paladin will be using Divine Favor for an extra 1d4 per attack, which will reduce the spells by 1 smite. And then I try to calculate the number of smites you're going to have and the smite damage you're going to lay down in round 1 and round 2. I know this is not a calculation. I'm assuming that all the smite damage that you can apply will apply on every chance you have to hit. So it's not going to be exact, but it's just made the calculations a little bit easier. And then we can have from round 1 to round 5. This is where I'm going to do the Swift Blade damage as well. When you get your extra 2d8, you can use that up to 5 times at level 16, so I'm going to put that there as well. We have a special crit bonus, and this is what the half-orc gets. So if they do crit damage, they're going to do extra crit damage in that amount, whether it is a melee or a ranged. So you can see where that half-orc extra crit damage shows up. This is the proficiency bonus you'll have. The number of attacks. This is for action surge. So my fighters are going to get 1 action surge, and that's how many attacks they're going to get. This is if you're going to have bonus attacks. This is one thing that, okay, right out of the box, the ranger can have 1 bonus attack at full damage because they're using 2 weapons, and the Berserker Barbarian, as one of their skills, gets a bonus attack at full damage as well. We'll kind of go along here, and kind of get to the gist of the rest. So this is sort of the bonus attack damage you can do. This is the AC that we're hitting against. So level 3, I used 12. Level 5, 13. Level 10, we've got 15. Level 12, let me see, I think I used 16. Yep, 16. And then level 16, I used 18, assuming that's the average AC. Now, again, this is an assumption you have to make. It's not going to be exactly correct. You're going to have, there are some enemies that might have a 20 AC or a 21 AC, or can cast shield and get their AC even higher. And then there's going to be, even at level 16, creatures that have a 14 AC. This is just the assumption that basically I made to try and figure out and calculate the damage. And then I, based on that and the other factors, I do a 2-hit percentage. So a half-orc fighter attacking normally will have a 70% chance to hit against an AC 12 character, and if they're attacking with advantage, that's 91%. If they're blessed, it's 82%, and if they're blessed with advantage, that's 96.9%. The halflings rerolls are put in here, so whether we can reroll a 1 or not, and that does have an effect on the percentages. The weapon bonus is just whether you have a +1 weapon, +2, +3, because it affects both damage and your to hit roll. And then I have bless here, which is how much you will add to your attack rolls. Even at level 3, you could be blessed. And I'm going to include that in all the sustain damage things, because you can get a potion of heroism very easily. And it's easy to keep this blessing up for an hour at a time. HST... what did I use that for? I'll have to, it'll be in another part of the calculations, probably deeper in here. HST. I can't remember exactly what I used that for. Oh, that's haste. So that's whether you're hasted or not. It's very easy to be hasted at the higher levels, and you can take potions of haste, so that gives you an extra attack. So at level 3, we don't have any haste active. This is your crit damage. So you can see that the champion fighter has a 10% crit damage, because they 10% chance to crit because they crit on a 19 or 20, and if they do it with advantage, it's 19%. The halfling is 10.5%. So this is all the crit chances, the crit damage with advantage, the bonus attack crit damage. And then the way it sums up here from round to round to round. So you can see the fighter here is doing a lot more damage in round 1, and then it moves off because they can use their action surge in round 1. Whereas the barbarian has no special abilities between round 1 and 2, so it's all the same. And the paladin can have 2 rounds of sort of nova damage. And then we come to here. This is where it's all added up. They're 1 round, 5 round, 10 round, and 25% ranged. So when I go to my summary, if I look at level 5, that's what I've looked at, the 25% range, sustained damage, the 1 round, max damage, 5 round, 10 round. So as I went through, I just added feats. So, for example, the level 4, the champion fighters get follow-up strike, which allows them to make a bonus attack. As you can see, the bonus attack is added here. Where the half-orc barbarian can just take an ASI, an ability score increase, and add their strength, make their strength, take their strength to 19. Where the claw barbarian will take follow-up strike because it's not using its bonus action, and the halfling is taking EB. Can't remember the name of that. It might be, eager for battle. Starting first matters a lot, but you can't really calculate it, but it does bring up their dexterity to +4, so it does add. And then the paladins are taking follow-up strike as well, where the the Judgment Paladin is taking Enduring Body for the extra HP. So you can see that just for my curiosity, the Dwarf Paladin is starting to pull away on hit points already, even over the Barbarians. And you can look at their damage. Their Nova damage is actually still pretty good, but we go up to level 10. I start to add more feats and ASIs, and this is where the fighter actually really starts to make up for some of the things it doesn't get by having those extra ASIs. So on level 6 and level 8, they can take ASIs and they'll get their strength up to 20 for the half-orc and 18 for the halfling. The barbarian can also get up to The half-orc barbarian can also get up to a 20 strength at that moment. The halfling, I've added up, because this is how I would want to build a really high damage halfling. I added up some of the feats. So this is just a +1 to dex, so it hasn't done anything. I think it's unerring aim, which allows you to bypass cover. Now, you could just add the maximum of things that are going to add damage, but I wanted to make characters that would be high damage characters that would still be more or less how I would generally build them. And the Paladin's taking an ASI. This is where, from level 5 to level 10, if we look at the summary, the half-orc barbarian starts in number 1 position. Level 10 is when the half-orc paladin, the judgment paladin, slips into number 1. And actually, the claw barbarian gets into level 3. What these numbers are here, by the way, is just so you can see how I calculated and thought about this. So I took these numbers here, which are really the summary of the ranged. I erased these out of it, 75%, 75% sustained. And I took these 4 columns, 25% range, what's their sustained range damage? Or 25%, 75. What is your sustained damage, assuming 25% is ranged and 75% is melee, no buffs? What's their 1 round max, their 5 round max, and 10 round maxed? Then I put it in the summary, and I scored them. So whoever had the highest got the score of number 1, all the way down to whoever got the lowest score of number 2. For each of the columns, the sustained damage, the 1 round burst, the 5 round nova, and the 10 round sustained burst. And they all got a score of 1 to 10, and then I took the average and then just rank ordered. Okay, the half-orc barbarian has the highest total in those 4 sectors. That's why they finish first. Then I did the same for level 10. Rank ordered them again, and then looked at the highest. So the paladin, judgment paladin, finishes first. The half-orc barbarian second, and that the dragonborn claw barbarian number 3. This one underneath is, I wanted it to be a sort of the smoothest path through all the levels. So it's a total, and it takes the average scores of level 10 and the average scores of level 5 and averages those. I wanted to see which has the smoothest path through the entire game, depending on what level you're on, out of curiosity, and the Judgment Paladin is still number 1. However, the Claw Barbarian moves out of the top 3. It's 3 in just this level, but overall the Champion Fighter is number 3. Then at level 12, this is where the fighter, it has already an extra feat, and it gets its extra attack, and it really starts to pull away, because what I'm doing at level 10 and 12 is I'm also making the assumption that when I'm doing my max damage over here, I'm fully buffed, and my characters are blessed and invisible, so they're always going to be attacking with advantage. It's pretty easy to twin spell greater invisibility and have your damage dealers always attacking with advantage, and you can get a lot of advantage in other ways too, but I wanted to look at the absolute maximum a character could do. So in the summary, the champion fighter starts to pull away from everything else. It is worth noting that the barbarian can generate its own advantage, so that if you didn't want to hold your melee damage dealers or keep them invisible with greater invisibility and just walk into a fight and use your character's ability, the half-orc barbarian would the barbarians would show up ahead of the fighters. You can look at the sustained damage when you just look down this row. Now the champion fighter is still very, very good, but the barbarians will move up because they don't need any buffs for advantage. And interestingly, at level 12, the halfling ranger swiftblade shows up in the number 2 position. And one of the things about that halfling is re-rolling the 1 does always keep it ahead of the Sylvan Elf Ranger. I wanted to look at the two compared to how much of a difference it is. It's not a whole lot, but it just keeps it ahead of that Sylvan Elf all the way. One of the things about that the Ranger, the Swiftblade Ranger, it is just so absolutely level. It's it can be in ranged, in melee, it doesn't matter. And you can see the 75% range damage is 50 per round. The sustained melee damage is 55. And if you look at level 10, 23 to 29, it doesn't. Whereas this one is 22 to 46. It's a lot bigger of a spread. And even at level 16, when you're looking at strength, it's 56 to 69, whereas it's like 49 to 92. So it's a very, very level character, and it can, very flexible depending on the fight. But it does show up as number 2 overall at level 12 for your damage dealers, although it does not show up on the smoothest path chart. Once you get to level 16, now I did look at level 16 without adding any strength. It kept the strength where it was without adding any strength, like a belt of strength or anything like that, just out of curiosity. But really, in reality, at level 16, it's easy to get strength potions that take you up to 27, 25, and there's giant strength belts to 25. If you're at level 16, you're going to have one of these. So I did all the calculations, assuming a strength of 7, and assuming that the ranger would switch from finesse weapons to just regular, like longswords, so would also be able to get that bonus. And you can see here rounds 1 through 5, this is where the ranger is adding that extra focused damage over a number of rounds. You can see the paladin damage is added up like that. So and you can see once we get to level 16 strength, there are a lot of times where, even before you have advantage, you have a functionally 100% chance to hit. I know it's never quite 100%, but I'm not going to put in there 99.99999% chance. It's just to make the spreadsheet look a little bit nicer. And so when we get all the way back to how I evaluated all this information, doing it at a rank order like this, I don't know that it's the very best way to do it, but things do pop up to the top, and classes do get their due. Like this champion fighter is with advantage is critting 30% of the time at level 16. It's an absolute crit machine, and I played one at level 16. They're really good, and they just do a massive amount of damage, and it shows in their sustained burst damage and their 1 round damage, even though they don't have smite or any other special abilities like that. They're doing 1490 damage over 10 rounds, where the paladin is only doing 1221. Now the paladin, if you go and look in the summary, the number 1 spot for in level 10 is paladin, but the number 1 spot still for the smoothest path at level 12 is the paladin, and it's the number 2 spot at level 16 for the smoothest path. Even though that halfling ranger jumps into the number 2 spot at number 12 and stays at number 3 at level 16, the paladin is very good. If you look at our smoothest path They're the top three. All of them are half orcs, so that racial ability or ancestry ability of being able to add to your crits, it really does end up surpassing even the halfling ability to reroll a one. It starts to matter more and more as the levels progress, and the barbarians are still good at the end. Like you can see, the half orc berserker barbarian was number 3 on our level 16. Kind of smoothest path, and that's assuming everyone else is getting invisibility all the time. You take invisibility away from everyone else, that half orc barbarian will jump up to the top. I have no doubt. I just didn't do that calculation because you can think your way through that. I don't think there's anything else to go through here as far as how I did the calculations, and sort of where they landed up as far as how much damage per round was being done. One of the things I will note, if you look at the fighter, really getting that extra feat at level 14 and extra feat at 6, it just allows you to take extra feats. So by the time you're level 12 with the champion fighter, you're taking a mighty blow, and then you're taking those elemental, where you can add lightning damage to 1 attack per round. You might get 4 or 5 attacks per round, but you can only add it once. But you can actually get 2 of those by level 16. So no other classes are really able to get their strength up to max and fit in all of those nice feats and ASIs like the fighter can, which is why it really pulls away, on top of getting that extra attack at level 11 and then the ability to crit on an 18, 19, or 20, I think at level 15 or 14. It really does pull away for just raw damage. The one thing that I didn't analyze, and this is, to speak to the martial caster divide, is the barbarian and the fighter do a lot of damage, but they don't have near the utility that a ranger or a paladin has in their extra spells. Like the paladin can resurrect, it can turn undead, it has auras. The ranger, has other abilities like spike growth and things that it can do. So making a judgment call on those things, I think, is up to each person. I just wanted to look at, okay, who does the most melee damage if we buff the hell out of them, and look at it as a sustained with just out of the box, no buffs, a 1 round max, a 5 round nova, and a 10 round max buffed. And that's what it looks like. And having seen the summary sheet, you can always go and look at where each class shows up as well in that summary if you're trying to look for something that you're looking at. Like, something that's interesting is this a Judgment Paladin doesn't always finish last. Like, it finishes 3rd at level 5 for 1 round damage, and it's a one-hander with a shield. 4th at level 10, 7th at level 12, and still it's 8th at level 16. It finishes in last place a lot, but not always. So I think that's one of the things that I just like about doing these type of analyses, is things like that pop out to be very, very interesting. Anyways, that's the analysis. That's what it looks like. If you have any questions, just put them down in the comments and I'll try to answer them. And if you do like these types of videos, like, subscribe, and let me know. I really appreciate it. Other than that, I will hopefully see you soon. Have a good one.